What's going to happen on Saturday? Well, I don't know, man. But hey, here's some things that can give us some hope. Here's some things that we'll be honest, a little scared of. Let's talk about it with Maxwell Klitsky.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white 5 days a week here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below how you are feeling about this game, because quite frankly, I'm still struggling with how I'm feeling about this game. Now, we are joined by the one, the only Maxwell Klitsky. Just a fantastic follow on Twitter, if not for nothing else. Maxwell, speaking of Twitter, speaking of the mystery of this game, you said it best. Quote, a fascinating game where no outcome would surprise me, close quote. I can see Boston College rolling us by 30 as much as I can see Michigan State stunning the Eagles and winning by 30, and anything in between. Maxwell, how is it possible to feel like this in a week 4 game? We should have all the answers by all the teams by now, shouldn't we?
Yeah, it's crazy that we're a quarter way into the season and we still don't truly exactly know not only who we are, but who Boston College is as well. Yeah. You know, we saw them stun Florida State, and then quickly that became more of a Florida State problem than a Boston College thing. And then against MSU, you know, they showed fight on the road against a playoff quality team. So it's really tough of, what to make of them as well as us. I mean, we looked competent, which is all I was looking for this year. So yeah, it's interesting to see how much we still don't know, but how illuminating this game itself will be.
Now, we have some things that we were hopeful for Michigan State to pull off the upset and win this game. And we're going to start there. We're going to start on the rosy side of things. We're going to talk about some of the worst fears that we have going into Saturday. But, hey, of all the things that, are unknown, and of course we do know things about this team, right? Like, the skill position players, they're solid. We have a step up at quarterback. The offensive line, pretty solid at the pass protection. But the defensive side of the ball, you know what? The run defense has been pretty good, right? Okay, like we've been saying this all week. Okay, to start the season, 2.8 yards given up per rush against Florida Atlantic, and then 2.8 given up against Maryland, and then just 0.8 last week against Prairie View A&M. But you know what? I got to say, that is what gives me hope. Even though that it was against lesser competition, I still think that's strong enough to go up against Boston College, who, yes, just like you said, they look fantastic against Florida State. But in hindsight, Florida State looks like they're playing guys like me and you in their front seven. Like, is that really that impressive of a game? They got a real legitimate test last week where they just ran for 1.9 yards per carry against the Missouri Tigers. Am I saying we're Missouri Tigers good? Like, no. I'd be stunned if we held them under 2 yards, especially with that solid offensive line at Boston College. But I think we can keep them at bay. That's where I have most hope in this game, is making them one-dimensional and kind of making Thomas Castellanos pass the ball, which could still get us in trouble here in a little bit. But hey, shut off one valve, and that's a big, big valve. That's what I have most hope in. Maxwell, anything that has a glimmer in your eye as it pertains to Saturday?
No, I think you really hit the nail on the head. That was the first thing that I wrote down and looked at too. Just watching Castellanos as a player. I wrote a kind of like a quarter season preview at Spartan Shadows where I kind of highlighted the first 4 games in 4-game blocks. And for Boston College, I posted a YouTube clip of Castellanos going bananas against Florida State last year, just running all over the place and throwing all over the place. If he's able to get his legs moving and really just getting the defense off balance, that's going to cause a huge problem, because then it's going to feel more comfortable in the pass game. It's interesting how you brought up the point that we're probably not Missouri up front in regards to run defense. Sheehan, you're aware of what EPA per play is, right?
Oh, yeah, of course I am. But you know what? You explain it a lot better than I do, Maxwell. Go ahead and just go off for everyone at home.
Yeah, EPA is, all yards are not created equal. Getting 4 yards at 3rd and 10 at your own 6 isn't good. But, getting, getting 4 yards and 4th and 1 at your opponent 10-yard line is a lot better, right? So it basically says, like, how much better are you doing given what your expectation is? Matt, let's play a little quick game. Rush EPA per play defensively. Mizzou is ranked 14.
Okay.
I think Michigan State is ranked
22nd. It's a little behind Missouri.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you a second question before I give you the answer.
Lord.
MSU is ranked.
Where's who ranked? I'm sorry.
Florida State.
Oh, God. 55th.
So Florida State is 97th.
Oh, that bad. Okay. So our eyes weren't lying to us. Okay.
So does that change your answer of how you think Michigan State is?
21st. I will move up one spot. How about that?
15th.
Let's go, Green. All right, Missouri. There we go. Let's go. Okay.
So, and this was like a really concern I had at the beginning of the season, just, new bodies replacing Barrow and Harmon.
Of course.
What is this interior going to look like? What is this whole line going to look like? We know they can fit the run well. They've been able to, really lock in and stop the run. So I think that's a huge key, especially because BC runs about 6.7% more than they're expected to in certain plays.
Gotcha.
So that falls into a strength that MSU has. Funny enough, more teams are running against MSU, and then Boston College is running against more teams than what is expected of them. So for MSU to have this, they're also 15th in defensive rush success rate as well, too. So that's a really good stat, and that really plays into our hand, and a reason why I'm hopeful, because limiting that run game really makes them one-dimensional. And, Castellanos throwing the ball is a wild card, but when he's kind of forced into pure passing situations, that's when the defenses can really key in and capitalize on his mistakes. So.
Now, I have another thing that I think I'm kind of hopeful for, and I can't tell. Maybe I'm just wanting to talk myself into it being an optimistic outlook for Michigan State, but I'll save that until the other side of a break here. But before we do that, Maxwell, do you have anything else that you're hopeful about that you want to, belt out really quick?
Yeah, just really quick. Just the ability to limit explosives in the pass game.
Sure.
Because that's, what Boston College really does. They're not super successful at throwing the ball, but when they are, it goes off for huge plays. So just rattling it off. Explosive passing plays for touchdowns passes over 20 yards. 3 against Duquesne, 2 against Missouri. I watched the 2 against Missouri. Those were both coverage busts, so I would say those are more on Mizzou than Boston College. Finding the right play call. Whereas with MSU, we've only given up 1 explosive passing touchdown this year to Maryland for 28 yards. So
gotcha. Okay.
That's something that we could be exposed again. Again, we don't know what we don't know about this team, but it's so far a quarter of the way through the season. It's been not that big of an issue so far. So.
Okay, you know what? I got to say, when I woke up this morning, I was feeling like, I just don't know about Saturday. But after this, I'm like where things are heading right now. We still will talk about the things that scare us. We are underdogs for a reason here, and that's not even to mention the 5 or 6 starters that we're already going to be out with this upcoming Saturday. But again, I got one more thing I think I'm somewhat hopeful for, but first got to talk to people's ears off about eBay Motors. That's right, folks. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. We're talking superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you are looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or it's your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the huge win. So what are you waiting for out there? Keep your ride or die alive over at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. And it is a Friday episode of Locked On. So you already know it. I'm rocking my home field apparel from homefieldapparel.com. Now, we're going to get into the promo code later on, but Spartan24, by the way, Spartan24. But let's talk about what makes home field so sweet. All right, whether it's t-shirts, long sleeve t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, my goodness gracious, you will always be the best looking one at your tailgate, in the stadium, at the sports bar, because of their vintage logos. And if you haven't seen them at homefieldapparel.com, you're just missing out right now. With those vintage logos, you are going to look stellar, and you're also going to feel even better, guys. Home field apparel is some of the most comfortable clothing I have in my closet. It is like an angel caressing your body, even during a stressful Michigan State game. God, home field apparel is simply the best, and well, they want to save you money. When you go to homefieldapparel.com, again, promo code Spartan24. That's all one word, Spartan24. It's going to get you 15% off your first order. Again, guys, Spartan24 over at homefieldapparel.com. Now, let's drag him back out here. It's friend of the program, Maxwell Klitsky. And, okay, so I think I'm hopeful about Michigan State's pass game. And Maxwell, maybe it's just because I'm so low on the run game for Michigan State, which sounds kind of silly because K'Ron Lynch-Adams, 6.2 yards per carry. Nathan Carter, 5.2 yards per carry so far this year. My big issue, and a lot of our issue, is that between the tackles, your meat and potatoes of the run game, not necessarily getting it done. So that could be a valve shutoff right there. I do have reason to believe it can happen, though. And yes, Boston College does have a pretty solid pass rush so far, but Michigan State's offensive line, they've been doing a pretty decent job at protecting Aidan Chiles. Boston College just 4 pressures last week. All right, Michigan State, they only had 3 hurries given up last week, and I understand that's just Prairie View A&M, but you do that against any team, okay, you're at least worth something in the pass protection game. I even want to throw another stat at you, Max. Aidan Chiles has 3.06 seconds to throw the ball per Pro Football Focus. That is 30th best in the nation. They are giving our guys some time. And of course, we've seen him extend plays too. Now let's talk about the other side. Boston College's secondary. That is their weakness. We just talked with Niraj Patel yesterday of BC Interruption. Okay, like they're replacing 3 starters, trying to do it by the transfer portal. Might it be Jack Valentine? Might it be Michael Masuna's time? Notori Foster, Antonio Gates Jr., Isaiah Johnson, and maybe you get Dron Glover back? Hey, I think that there is reason to believe that the pass game can work, or am I just saying all this to hype myself up because the run game I don't really have a lot of faith in this week? I don't know.
No, I don't think it. So the biggest question mark is obviously the offense, just because we don't know what offense we're gonna see.
And who will even be in there?
We saw at Florida Atlantic. It's very hot and cold. Chiles, for as raw and talented as he is, he's still very raw. So you get those incredible throws to Nick Marsh, but then you get him, with some bad misses at times as well. Stuff that we're all kind of on board with for him starting this year. We're not expecting, playoff bid in 2024 with a just freshly 19-year-old quarterback.
That'd be tough.
But I think Lindgren did a good job, even in the Prairie View A&M game, but especially in the Maryland game, of just getting him kind of settled into the game early, because that'll be crucial given the stadium environment that BC is going to bring out. But I also think, too, on the run game, and your point, we're struggling running through the tackles. But when I watched MSU and BC, they had a ton of success running outside zone.
Perfect. Okay.
Once guys are creating creases and getting to the edge, Carter and Lynch Adams are good at getting, breaking that first extra one. It's just a matter of them getting to that point when they're getting an edge is an issue. So I think there's opportunity for the run game to be successful. I think it just has to be more selective, especially with how they do it.
Sure. And you know what? Like, as we morph into the what we're scared of portion, like this could very well be a receiver core that trots out on the field of Montorie Foster, Antonio Gates Jr., and Isaiah Johnson, should Jerron Glover not be suited to go. And, you know, as we just funnel into what we are scared of, and, you know, from one passing game to another, like Thomas Castellanos, like, it is someone that I kind of fear, Maxwell. And is it that because I'm a coward of a fan? Like, yeah, that could be, but, you know, I got some numbers and, well, the eyeballs to back it up. And part of the eyeballs has nothing to do with Thomas Castellanos, really. Like, we just saw Cam Fancher of FAU have 96 yards on the ground, 68 of those yards while scrambling. Now, could that be because Malik Spencer, he was out the bulk of the game, and that's a really strong guy you want in the box against a scrambling quarterback? Sure, perhaps. But it's also the transformation of Thomas Castellanos from last year to this year. Last year, he was a powder keg. Like, this guy could throw a touchdown and an interception with ease for both sides of that. He had 15 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. This year, though, he's grown up. 2.9% of his plays are turnover-worthy plays per Pro Football Focus, okay? That's 69th most in the nation. For comparison's sake, Aidan Chiles, thank you. For Aidan Chiles, for comparison's sake, 7%. That is 8th most turnover-worthy plays in the nation. But, of course, young quarterback, whatever. Last year, Thomas Castellanos, he had 11th most in the country, so we are seeing some growth, and that might be helped by his 3.45 seconds for his average time to throw. We just talked about Aidan Chiles. He is the 30th best in the nation, 30th most amount of time in the nation to throw that ball. Thomas Castellanos, the most time in the nation amongst quarterbacks with at least 50 dropbacks. Oh, man, that is pretty good. And he's only faced 16 dropbacks under pressure. So, Maxwell, I do offer a solution, though, for this fear. Do we blitz more? Do we just open up the artillery and just send the nukes to Thomas Castellanos? Last year, on 141 dropbacks against the blitz, his completion percentage was just 56.4. All right, that was good for 87th in the nation. Not good at all last year. This year, just 16 dropbacks. He is doing it at a 72% completion percentage, but small sample size. Could we pressure him more by mixing up the blitzes? And for the love of God, never, ever, ever do a three-man rush. I don't care if it's 3rd and 40. Just send at least 4 guys there. But does Rossi crank up the heat? Perhaps. But I got to know your fear factor level with Thomas Castellanos, because I am a little spooked for what he can do.
Yeah, so in the preview that I mentioned earlier, the comment that I had about Thomas Castellanos is that he is the quarterback equivalent of sticking your hand into a garbage disposal. Yes. Well, like, you know, you're trying to clean some stuff out of there, you're trying to work on something to jar it loose, and then, you know it's not going to cut on because you're in control of the situation, but you can't control somebody else coming by you and flipping that switch, thinking it's a light switch above the sink. Yeah. He has every ability to ruin somebody's weekend. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we've seen it with Florida State. And then, you know, for moments there, it looked like it was going to happen to Mizzou. You know, would it really be ruining our weekend in the sense of that we're an underdog? No, but that kind of sentiment still applies. Like, we still don't know exactly what we're getting. Sure. And as far as the pressures point that you brought up, what I've noticed is that Bill O'Brien's done a very good job of putting the blinders on him. Mm-hmm. You know, putting him in very easy situations where he can make easy reads. And then for the longer developing plays, they are going like 6 or 7 man protections. So they're really just being like, yeah. And then a couple times in the Mizzou BC game, from what I saw, they really only had success pushing the ball downfield outside of the 2 coverage bust plays where they got touchdowns on, is when Mizzou just dropped 3 and they dropped 8 and had a 3-man rush, and they just had a zone, and they gave Castellanos like forever, you know, and 4 seconds in zone protection, you're going to find the open guy. So I do think Rossi would be smart early to throw some blitzes at him, even looks, so that way, you know, sim pressures later in the game can kind of confuse and cloud the picture for him. Because I think Bill O'Brien's done a very good job, you know, quarterback pedigree and all. He's done a very good job at kind of settling like a wild quarterback down and putting the blinders on him, just focusing and keeping him kind of in that box.
Also running a lot less than last year. Like, he is over a 1,000-yard rusher last year. This year, I had a way lower clip, even through 3 games, if, you know, multiplied it by 4 to match last season's total. Not really anywhere close. So yeah, he's kind of dumbing down the game for dumbing down's a rude way to put it, and inaccurate. Just like you said, like simplifying it is the nicer, more accurate way to put it. I'm gonna ask you what has got you losing sleep this week, Maxwell. What has got you in the fear factor? But first, gotta talk to people's ears off about FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. They've been hooking it up all season long. I gave my 5 best bets yesterday. We're gonna get a little opinion from Maxwell Klitsky here on the other side of this, but hey, folks, if you like what he's going to say, we'll go ahead, do the wagering over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You already know they are going to take care of you this football season, whether it's lines, whether it's props, whether it's futures, the same game parlays that you know I can't get enough of. They also want to do it with your entertainment on Sundays. But not for much longer, actually, guys. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Again, they're not just going to hook it up a Sunday Ticket. They also got the great spreads, props, whatever. Right now, Michigan State 5.5-point underdogs at the time of recording. Go ahead, hop on that if you're all about it. Over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Now let's drag him back out here. It is the one, the only Maxwell Klitsky. And you know what? That was a long monologue on Thomas Castellanos. I just from that Labor Day game against Florida State, and I know Florida State is closer to Florida International at this point of their season, but that still looked impressive. What's got you shook, Maxwell?
What's bothering me the most, or what I think we'll learn the most about this team and this defense, is how well coached this linebacker group is.
Okay.
So what BC is liked to do a lot, even though they're not running Castellanos as much, they are running a ton of option with him, whether it be read option, delayed handoffs, or even straight up like speed option with and some RPO stuff too. Really using his Castellanos' legs to put the defenses in predicaments. And, part of that is the linebackers have to make the correct reads on these things. And even if they make a bad read, that they are not washing themselves out of the play by committing to a read. So I think being able to discern and find the tells for that will be super important to this game, because if they can get that option game going early, we're just going to be Michigan State's just going to be on tilt the entire game. Whether Castellanos is going to keep it, they're going to give it to Treshaun Ward or Robichaud, or they're going to fake it to Robichaud and then throw a swing pass out to Lewis Bond or Treshaun Ward out of the backfield. It's just a lot of discipline as well when the play breaks down, because Castellanos, as we know, human garbage disposal. Like it's, if you give him time, he's gonna do something that you're not gonna like. So just having that discipline when a play, the standard structure of a play breaks down, and we get scramble drill, keeping your lanes and everything too. So seeing just how disciplined the defense is in that standpoint is kind of what's keeping me up at night, and it's mostly because of just the past priors of what we've seen over the course of the Mel Tucker era. So
kind of in line with that too. That's the last thing I'll belt out really quick is everyone knows my opinions on, the run game. Outside zone, fine. You know what? Like they didn't stumble across 6.2 yards per carry for Cameron Lynch Adams for no reason, but like this is also a really good run defense so far. Like, yes, they held Florida State to 1.3 yards per carry in that Labor Day game that many of us watched, but like not that special. Like Florida State just did 1.5 yards per carry against Memphis last week, but hey, outside of that, they held Duquesne to less than 2 yards per carry. And this sounds weird to say that you held a team to 4.1 yards per carry, but that's what they did against Mizzou, and that's a pretty solid Mizzou run offense there. So I think they held their own. So I just it doesn't limit what you could do in play action. Like let's say it's a 3rd and 2 and you just need to gut the ball up the middle. I don't know. Again, everyone knows my opinion. Everyone's probably just so sick of me talking about it, but I've also been kind of sick watching it too. So I don't know. That's it for the fear factor, except for I'll say this too, just super quick penalties. Michigan State averaging 114 yards per game. Boston College, not quite that much. 26 yards per game. So they play a very churchly game over there. Just those nice, splendid Golden Eagles, just playing the game the way it should, penalty free. Anything else that scares you before we pick your brain about the picks for the Saturday's game here? That's good. I like that.
No, not really. I think we covered everything that's really, that would be the biggest issues.
Nice.
Still excited to learn, because in the grand scheme of things, I still think this team is either worst case at where I wanted them to be. So we're either on schedule or ahead of schedule coming out of on Sunday. So
this is going to transition good to the next segment here, because, usually in these Friday shows, I do my 5 best bets. All right. I did that on yesterday's show. No, I'm not, running from the grind and just quitting best bets, even though I gave everyone Purdue plus 10.5 against Notre Dame last week. Maxwell, that's what we call a horrible pick in the industry. No, but there's a Friday game, Nebraska, Illinois. I wanted to bet the under. So we did that a day early just to, give everyone that. Speaking of betting, though, we're not going to just completely shy away from it, because you had another tweet, not done digging in, but there could be justifiable reasons to look into alternative lines for MSU -3 this weekend. Maxwell, after all that was said the last 25 minutes, are you confident enough that Michigan State pulls this one off? Should we all be running to go get that MSU -3 alt line right now?
Yeah, so just thinking about how this game could play out, really the only way that I could see BC being, I think the line is like 5.5 now. It's just
right now it is. That keeps flowing between 5.5 and 6.5. But yes,
I think the only way that BC really wins by a touchdown is if they get if they're able to hit some explosives. And with the way the defense has been playing this year, explosives isn't an issue, defending explosive plays. So really game script dependent. What I've seen from BC and what the numbers kind of bear out. Parker Fleming at StatsAwar, who puts out the advanced previews.
Yep.
He was the one that really kind of caught my eye with them, because he is the only one that has Michigan State as a favorite. Bill Connolly, SP+, all the books have BC, K Ford ratings, 76% chance BC's going to win. FPI for ESPN, 78.9% that Boston College is going to win. Parker at StatsAwar, it's projection, but it's Michigan State -4.4. So more than a field goal. So I was kind of just digging into those numbers. And one of the things he looks at, and one of my favorite ones, is ECHL rate. So ECHL rate is essentially like, did you have a successful drive or not? So like, did you either score in an explosive play, or did you get a first down inside the opponent's, 40-yard line? So BC's offense is their rate. They only get a successful drive, 24% of the time. That's 112th in the country. But their points per successful drive is second in the country. So that kind of shows you that, they're really relying on their explosive plays to generate most of their points. And that's where a lot of their points come from.
Gotcha.
So I think defensively, they're very hot and cold with getting the ball moved down the field. And another thing too, with the Florida State game that I saw, because BC was still just chipping away. Florida State looked soft, and all the words that you can describe about this MSU team, soft is not one of them this year.
Correct. Yeah.
So I think that, that mentality and everything, we're not going to be willing to get pushed around. So I think just like game flow and game state, more and more options kind of lay out that Michigan State will either, lose by less than a touchdown, or, I think if they're winning this game, almost convincingly, in the sense. So it's like not some like late time field goal like it was against Maryland. It's kind of, limiting those explosives and taking the chaos element for Castellanos out of the picture, and then able to, exploit pieces in the secondary, as we get through the season, we're going to see more and more growth from Aidan Chiles. And this is just, I think, another way we can step forward in that direction. So that's why I was kind of really leaning on,
I like that,
favoring and getting those alt lines out there, because if Michigan State's winning this game, they're going to win it by more than 3 points. So
sky high in the Spartans. I absolutely love it. It really quick, if Michigan State win this game, just like one word to describe your emotions or the outlook of the season, like what does a win on Saturday night on the storied ACC network do for you, Maxwell?
Obviously, it exceeds expectations. Just looking at it from
certainly,
one piece at a time, especially with the gauntlet that looks less daunting now than it did before in the preseason. But to be 4-0 going into whatever the Ohio State Ohio State game ends up as. But at least being 4-0 and willing to stand toe to toe with anybody is really big. So I think, and for year one of the Smith era, getting to a bowl is crucial for development and the future of the program. So, after this weekend with a win, you're only 2 games left and you can find 2 wins in the schedule. So
I think it makes you feel really good about those end of October games. Iowa, they're fine. Michigan, they're fine. But hey, if you're 4-0 with 2 road wins against Power 4 teams, at worst you are fine. Right. Mm-hmm. Especially considering that you have had this many injuries too. If you're still gutting out wins, I don't need, what else can you say other than okay, that's objectively a damn good team at the very least right now. Right. That also means you're probably keeping stride with the Indianas and the Illinois of the world that, weren't highly thought of in the preseason, kind of like us by a lot of experts, but you know what? They're actually doing good right now. You'd at least be keeping pace with them. And the bowl dream would squarely not just be alive, but very expected at that point should they go 4-0. Right. But I got to stop talking like this before I get dizzy and way too ahead of myself because libations will be a-flowing at the Sheehan household should they win this game and move to 4-0. My goodness. That's going to be a loud episode of Locked on Spartans that night, waking both kids up upstairs. But Maxwell, enough about my hypothetical plans should they win. Anything you want to shout out here before we let you go and enjoy this weekend coming up?
Yeah, whatever Wyoming's team total
that was one of our best bets yesterday. We are taking North Texas minus 9.5 against Wyoming.
Yeah, check out. I don't know what the team total is, but I would venture to take the under, even though this is movable force meets stoppable object because North Texas defense is atrocious. Yeah. And then, we know the story behind Wyoming's offense. But so if we can get this team total under, we're riding high for the rest of the year. It's unders are just going to be.
Oh, it's free money. No, I shouldn't say free money. Gambling's never free money. But it's a good idea. How about that? I think the over under for that game is 53. That spread's 10. So I think their team total would be somewhere around 21. I think doing that somewhat right there, 21.5 perhaps. If you get the hook on that,
take that under.
I will be emptying the ATM right next to me, as if that's how sports betting works on a phone app. But I will be emptying the metaphorical ATM if it's 21.5. I'm going to go check that out right after this, folks. You already know we're going to be back on. Well, I'm going to be back on Saturday, I should say. I'm not going to make Maxwell Saturday night plans right now, but we will be back right after this game on Saturday. I'm excited. I'm nervous. It feels nice to, be hopeful about a season 3 games into a year. We've come a long way in the last year. I know I've been saying that a lot, but let's cherish this ride that we're on right now. All right, guys. Until next time, love you all. Go Green.